Hi everybody. A friend that runs this channel has let me use it and also has let me use it as a backup channel because my own YouTube, Deb to Vibes, has been suspended for a week because I got a strike for uploading a video in which I discussed vaccines and shared some information, and apparently it isn't allowed. Okay, which I find very disturbing, that people are being told that we're not allowed to ask questions about these vaccines, that the gene editing experimental vaccines. That's just a fact. I think people have a right to ask questions about it. Well, certainly in Denmark, people have been asking questions and have been educating themselves enough that for 9 days they protested around Parliament over a new law that would be able to define groups of people who must be vaccinated. People who refuse can be coerced through physical detainment, with police allowed to assist. And I do love that they've taken lead from the Icelandic people here. If you recall, the Icelandic people took their kitchen utensils, pots and pans, and made a racket when the government was threatening to bail out the bankers. And the people of Iceland were successful. And I do like that natural music that's created by the crowd. You know, they don't come across as an angry mob. They are the domestic workforce using their domestic utensils. I think it's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And so, you know, here they are again as well. And so then this good news, Denmark, after 9 days of banging pots and pans outside of Parliament, the epidemic law is scrapped.
Alright, quick update, guys. They've thrown the epidemic law in the bin. Yes! Denmark did it. I don't know if you can see here, but that's the way it looks. This is so amazing, guys. Share the good news, please. Share, share, share. Denmark has thrown the epidemic law down the drain. Yes! I'm so happy I can't even speak. I'm crying. This is such a relief. And for you who are tuning in who doesn't know anything of what has been happening, Denmark has had an epidemic law that was completely insane. They were trying to impose on its people, and we have been fighting here for over a week with pots and pans demonstration outside, where everyone is sitting in the Danish parliament, and finally we gotten through to them. Today was the day where it was supposed to be decided if this law went through or not. I'm sorry, I'm holding my phone here and I'm shaking because I'm just so happy. This is such a relief. If that law had been going through, Denmark would have been a dictatorship, and it would have been so awful. There would have been forced vaccinations, forced medications, all bad things you could ever imagine. And if you're interested in finding out more, go and look at my other lives and you can see. I just wanted to share the good news with you guys, and I wanted to thank you for all your support, and you have been so amazing sharing everything, and the fight is not over, I can tell you that. Not here, not anywhere in the world, but we will continue to support each other, and now we know how to do it, right? Denmark showed the way.
Yes, Denmark showed the way. And, you know, it looks like the Danish Medical Association believes that the new epidemic law goes too far, and so, you know, they've managed to scrap it through peaceful protest in Denmark. But here in Britain, we're not just facing this, are we? You know, I mean, first of all, I can't imagine what the Danish people's response would have been to this bill that's recently been passed in Parliament. New rules for MI5 and police to authorise crimes. Well, this is a very deceptive title from the BBC, because as you read scroll down to the bottom of this article, you realise that the new rules are not just for the MI5 and police to authorise crimes, which do include torture, do include kidnapping, torture, rape and murder, okay? All of these agencies also will be able to authorise secret crimes. You know, MI5, police force, immigration, inland revenue, UK military forces, Ministry of Justice, Competition and Markets Authority, Environment Agency, Financial Conduct Authority, Food Standards Agency, Gambling Commission and Medicines and Healthcare Regulation Authority. All of these can authorise themselves to commit secret crimes if they feel that we're a threat to their interests as an economic force or as a medical force, you know, because, you know, managing COVID-19 is now an issue of national security. So people asking questions about exposing information maybe about maybe the dangers of a vaccine, they may be targeted. Now, what's absolutely ridiculous about this and absolutely laughable, I mean, and it just shows how corrupt the BBC is that they've even included it, because apparently the legislation stresses agencies must not breach the Human Rights Act, which requires the government to protect life. I mean, seriously? What? So somebody who's been kidnapped and facing murder, authorised murder, they can stand there and say, oh, but I've got my human rights. Who will even know what's happened to them? Will these agencies be going knocking on the doors of the families? Oh, by the way, we killed your husband, or we've raped your wife. No, nobody's going to know, are they? And this just got through without a blink, because people are that focused on COVID-19 and stuff. And I mean, David Lammy, a member of the British Labour Party today, was it? Yeah, today. I was reading on Twitter his praises for Keir Starmer, the new leader of the Labour Party, the alleged opposition, singing his praises about his appearance on the BBC Radio 4's Desert Island Discs, and, oh, you know, I know the man, you know, and I know he's so genuine, he's so lovely. That guy, Keir, what, he's so lovely. A leader of an opposition that instead of demanding that his MPs, that Labour MPs, oppose this draconian secret crimes bill that's been now dubbed the Kill Bill, okay, literally imposing the death sentence against British citizens, minus a trial, minus arrest and trial, okay. He actually forced Labour MPs to abstain from voting against it, so it passed so easily. And there were a few MPs from the Labour Party that, you know, ignored Starmer's orders, and they voted against it, and he's actually punished them. I think some of them he's actually sacked from the Labour Party. He's dismissed from the Labour Party because they went against his wishes. Thank you, and top respect to those MPs. Right? But, you know, like I say, in Britain, not only are we facing COVID-19 rules and regulations that have got everybody under house arrest, the threat of forced vaccinations, mandatory vaccinations, which the government is planning for, okay? We've also, you know, we've got this bill, but also we've got a hard Brexit coming in December. And this was from 2019, January 2019, and I remember I made videos about it. I was warning people about it. It's been a concern of mine now for quite some time. The brutal reality of martial law, how it works and what happens. The government is reportedly examining the possibility of martial law if food and medical shortages spark civil disobedience and rioting following a no-deal Brexit. So if those shortages spark civil disobedience and rioting, because a no-deal Brexit will deliver food and medical shortages. What are people going to do when they see the loved ones have no medicines? When the children have no food? Of course people are going to get angry, so they're going to bring in martial law, you know, and it says here, and yesterday Health Secretary Matt Hancock confirmed the government was drawing up plans to impose martial law and curfews in a no-deal Brexit. So that's actually an incentive for them to have a no-deal Brexit, because then they can just take total control over the country. Now, what could happen? Well, what is martial law? Martial law is usually employed for a limited period and often in times of emergency like major disaster, invasion or overthrow of a government. So Brexit then is a major disaster. But don't forget, we've also got the COVID-19 pandemic, haven't we? Alleged pandemic. Often they are introduced after a coup d'etat or when popular uprising threatens the established order. Well, we are in a coup d'etat. It's a global coup d'etat. As far as the evidence is showing us, the COVID pandemic destroying people's lives, engineered economic depression, global coup d'etat, ? Read through it. It goes through everything. The PCR test, this whole pandemic as a plandemic. It's all there. You know, Michael Chossudovsky, he does absolutely brilliant articles. He's been writing for these for years, and I mean, top respect to the man. Top. So, in Britain, because of the severity of the situation we're facing, and, you know, you look at something, well, you think to yourself, well, how could the people of this country voted in this government by a landslide, when actually by the time the government got voted in, the vast majority of people no longer wanted Brexit because this government was exploiting it. You know, I mean, that was the only reason why I voted against it. It was precisely because I felt this government are too untrustworthy, they're too criminal. I didn't trust them not to exploit Brexit to turn it into something evil. Because, you know, we do deserve a deal. In any divorce, you know, you don't expect one half of that couple to leave the marriage with absolutely nothing. You see, because we paid in for years and years and years into the EU. So of course we should leave with a deal. You know, we shouldn't be left with no food or medicines facing 50 years austerity and martial law. That's a punishment. That isn't Brexit. That's not the nation we were when we entered into the EU. So of course we would have a deal, like Norway's got a deal. Norway isn't part of the EU, it's not part of the EU bloc, but they have a deal. Okay? And so we have a right, you know, and that is what this the petition's about, an urgent inquiry into the postal vote, because now we're asking the legitimacy of this government to be creating things like the Kill Bill and the coronavirus law that basically the Denmark people have just trashed, okay, in their country. But in our country, that same law still stands. Okay? So, you know, you look, well, how did they get this landslide win that gave them total control over Parliament and get Corbyn axed as leader from the Labour Party to be replaced by Starmer and his Tory Blairite followers? Well, it was the landslide victory. Now, you know, this isn't a Trumpian type concern that Trump's complaining about actually what appears to be non-existent fraud, according to the postal vote in America, because in America the post office is nationally owned and run. It's a national service, a nationalised service, and running and counting of the postal vote is performed by each state, you see, by the governing offices of each American state. But here in Britain, the Tories in the last 10 years have privatised our post office, and the managing of the postal vote and the counting of the postal vote is all performed by private companies that are hired by the Tories and have direct connections to the Tories. So naturally we are suspicious when suddenly the postal vote doubles, and so we're asking questions about it, you know. And Ricky Coxon here has provided he has gathered all the data here. Now, I know for sure that this data is correct because I'd actually researched a lot of it myself and was feeling very, very suspicious before Ricky Coxon had, you know, done even more research and written this article. And so I was so alarmed when I read this article because it confirmed a lot of my own research and more. You know, as he says, he is a data nerd. So it's a very serious matter. Now, I'm sure if this petition, if the same situation was applying to Denmark right now, you know, only 157 British people have bothered to sign it. And, you know, hats off to all of you, you know, for your strength, bravery and courage to sign this. Okay, but this would have been signed in its millions overnight. And it is disturbing that it hasn't. And I ask myself, is it because people are scared? Is it because they're scared? You know, well, I'm scared. I am scared. I'm scared of martial law. I'm scared of the kill bill. I'm scared that we've lost our democracy because, you know, suspicions around our postal vote that it appears to have been abused to allow this despot government to give itself such draconian powers. Like I say, it's not about a political party, which party you voted for. This is about the foundation of our democracy. And if we can't trust that our votes, that our democracy itself is secure, then how can we trust the results of it? And how can anything that government, that suspect government does, how can that be accepted as legal and lawful? Because actually a no-deal Brexit is unlawful. To put people's lives at risk like that, to the extent that you deliberately inflicting a state of emergency on the people, to the degree you've got to enforce martial law. So what could happen? Troops would occupy all our towns and cities and would patrol key sites such as council and government buildings, power stations. You know, searches, military checkpoints. I tell you, they turn our country into Palestine. Civilians would be obliged to carry ID documents. Banning protests, banning gathering of people. Prohibit opposition group leaders from meeting together. Curfews. Schools, shops and businesses could be forced to be shut. We're already under martial law now, aren't we? According to the impositions of COVID-19. Travel bans to prevent the grouping of people, blocks on roads. Anyone deemed a danger to public order or safety could be banned from moving outside a designated area. Confiscation of property. Everybody needs to look at this one. And don't forget, it isn't just your house, it's the contents of your house as well. Depending on the situation, it is possible the authorities could forcibly remove you from your home in order to acquire the property for government, confiscate or even destroy it without having to pay compensation. Legislation also allows for the destruction of animal or plant life belonging to a citizen without the need to compensate them. Well, you know, this government is already claiming that cats and dogs are a risk, are a COVID threat now. So suppose they decide that, you know, we've got to euthanise all our pets. With human rights suspended during martial law, troops would be able to arrest you simply for finding you suspicious or threatening. Control of the press. Well, we've already got that now, haven't we? I can't even post something on YouTube asking a question about vaccines. Because apparently it'll spread anger and panic among the public. What? Anger and panic? What is going on with these tests every day? They're telling, more cases, more positive cases, the cases are rising, when the fact is that people testing positive by these tests, they're only testing positive for a coronavirus, which could include the common cold, and actually the tests are being abused because they're putting them through 35, 40 cycles in Britain, when those tests are designed to go through 20 cycles. So they're over-testing, and they're picking up on anything and saying, oh yeah, you've got COVID-19. If somebody even so much as sneezes, COVID-19, you better quarantine. But people who have no symptoms, who are not needing any treatment whatsoever, that's not a case. You can't call that a case, but they are doing. They are doing, and they are moving forward on these exaggerations and actually outright lies, because the people they're telling have COVID-19, that's a lie. They cannot say definitively that because somebody's tested positive that they definitely have COVID-19. All they can say is that you have tested positive for a coronavirus. They are assuming that people have COVID-19, but they're not. They can only tell you that you have a coronavirus, which could include a common cold and a host of other varieties of flu, or even other illnesses like autoimmune illness, for example, or infections. Free speech could be suspended. It's already suspended. You know, yes, I am scared, but that's, you know, that is where bravery comes in, isn't it? Courage. That despite the fear, we stand up and speak out. Despite the fear. That yes, we're scared of what's happening, but it's no good sitting there worrying about everything, is it? We have to actually do something to address our concerns. And, you know, my way is I make videos, I share information, and to share a positive way forward to people, because knowledge is power. Now, here in Britain, you know, the British people have been, hats off to them, you know, getting out and protesting. And this is a protest from Manchester that's been posted here by Brees. Absolutely top lady. And I ask you, please follow her and please support her, because, you know, she's an ex-BBC IT and ITV reporter. She's literally give up her job in order to stand up for we the people, instead of reporting, you know, being like a puppet and reporting only what she's told. So, you know, please do give her some support. She's got a young family, and she says here, if you are a government, company, media brand and are not listening to the people, you will not survive. This was a protest in Manchester on the 8th of November. I see no reporting of this. And this is the...
brainwashed by government bankers.
Okay. And, you know, I'll just point out here, you know, the difference there between all those, look at all those people. And you can just hear a few mumbles and shouts and what have you. But when you look at something like this that they've done in Denmark and that they actually did in Iceland a few years ago, and you look at the difference, you know, the sound. Sound is very important, you know, it wasn't for nothing military. You know, as that lady says, learn from Denmark. Learn from Denmark. But, you know, I was reading through the comments here under this thread from Brees. If I just get up onto thing. There were some, you know, because they were saying that there were only a few hundred people there. It says, I was there and there were thousands of people. Only newspaper that mentioned it said there were up to 600 people. Lies. And it's, I'm trying to find that, oh, that was it. I was there with thousands of others. My favourite, but also the most heartbreaking sight, was a very elderly couple shuffling along together with very big banners. The lady had a Zimmer frame and kept stopping to lift up her banner that said, "I'd rather die of COVID than loneliness." I mean, and it said somewhere, I did pick up about Denmark. They're not reporting it on the TV. And there was a comment here about Denmark that seems to have disappeared. So why is there, has the protesting in Denmark been covered on UK news? There is a media blackout on anything remotely related. Okay, so what happened in Denmark? There was a media blackout. The BBC can get over to Syria and show us a handful of people protesting in Syria against Assad, right? But what's happening on our own doorstep in Europe, they can't show us. 9 days, people standing outside the Danish Parliament. They can't show us that. But they can show us people, a few hundred in Syria with a couple of banners. If there's, you know, an anti-American march in Bangladesh, they'll be there showing us. Oh, look, they're campaigning against Americans. Right? But Denmark, virtually the whole country, outside Parliament, they couldn't show us for 9 days. They couldn't, the BBC couldn't show us that. Why? We need to be asking questions. Jesus said, be like a little child. Ask questions, basically, because how else can an adult be like a little child? We're not going to all go around, you know, sucking dummies, are we? And the other thing that Jesus said is have no cares for your health. You know, obviously he didn't mean it in that literal sense of like, just don't bother about your health. But when you're fighting a battle against evil, you can't be worrying about how it's impacting your health. You know, soldiers go into battle knowing that they're likely to get injured or even die, but they're prepared to take them risks. Okay? For the sake of their people, for their land. And that's the same as we, the people. You know, when it comes to our giving up our rights for health security, well, no, actually. Because if you've got no rights, you will never have any health security. Because, you know, it looks like we're not even going to have the security of a licensed vaccine. That it's going to be unlicensed. And that is my big problem with it. That people need to be given a choice. You see, I am pro-choice. I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm pro-choice. Pro-informed choice. That's it. And that's what the people of Denmark have stood up for. They're not, all these people aren't anti-vax people. They are pro-choice people. They don't believe people should be forced into anything. And they're absolutely right. And that they don't want to live under a dictatorship. So, you know, I've got another little video here, if I can find it. This is the Liverpool anti-lockdown demo, and it's just so fantastic. This is brought to us by RedPill Phil, who's an absolutely fantastic guy. And I just really love this moment where the people are all singing on the steps here.
Yes, mate. Yes. Yeah. Fucking right, it will.
I mean, that is just so fantastic that everybody was singing Bob Marley, you know, and the media's trying to say, oh, you know, they're all racist, Brexit, far-right extremists. It's like, look, go away. We're people from all walks of life, uniting together. And again, you know, if you look at the amount of people walking there.
That plane is still circling.
You can see the amount of people coming down that street. I don't think it's going to play. You see? And then you compare that to these people. You see what I mean? Learn from Denmark, people. Learn from Denmark. Take your kitchen utensils, make your noise, okay? Because that's our music. We are naturally creative, and they create their own music that says something, you know. Absolutely, hats off to them, and hats off to the people of Manchester, the people of Liverpool, all the people in every town, city of Britain that are standing up to this tyranny and are taking courage. And so just to end here, I just want to share this because I do think it's very important that we look at the broader picture here of where all this is leading. Okay, you know, the Great Reset and that they're talking about now, and the cashless society and the universal income and blah blah blah. I made this in 2018, which was, you know, a couple of years ago now, and at that time Japan had just gestated a goat from an artificial womb, and just this last year the BBC have been you know, had on their news a feature of artificial womb. You know, they're on the brink now of finalising perfecting an artificial womb to grow human babies in. And so, you know, I'd already preempted this a couple of years ago on talking about Bitcoin, because what I'm explaining in this video, because I'd been asked to give a bit more. I'd made a video on Bitcoin based on what I'd researched into it, and I'd been asked to give a bit more information, so I made this video. And I am now proven correct that Bitcoin is all based on our DNA. It's basically the monetization of our DNA. I called it genetic cannibalism, you see, in a way, because that's what it is, that our whole economy will be based on our DNA. And Bitcoin was originally established to get everybody's computers working on solving the logarithms of the human genome, and that's how these Bitcoins were created and earned. And they needed the mass power of everybody's computer to do it, you see, at that time. And there was only so many Bitcoins to be made. And so I sort of take it on and show some more evidence in this and show how they are monetising our DNA, which today, that is it. I mean, I was called a wild conspiracy theorist at the time when I was putting this forward. But, you know, time has told. And my concerns were about, ultimately, them having control over human reproduction to the extent that a corporation could set up a factory somewhere and have a load of these baby making machines in there and literally grow their own workforce and control them from birth. and even genetically manipulate them in vitro, so that, you know, they can't like reproduce when they, you know, that like they might never hit puberty. And such power is also very disturbing when the consciousness that has created this now and that has full control over it, we know within that consciousness there are groups that abuse children in the most terrible ways imaginable, who would have the power to be able to buy this kind of technology for themselves to abuse. These are very, very serious things. You know, this isn't Hollywood science fiction. This is 21st century reality staring us in the face. That, you know, once you allow a criminal to get away with a crime, the crimes will just get worse and worse and worse, and you'll have less and less power to be able to overcome them. And what rights do they have? You know, the last thing you can take off a human child is a human mother. But these corporations want to control everything, every single aspect of life. They're claiming that they're going to save the planet. But as I've already explained, these people are half-wits. They're half-wits. They only operate on half-human intelligence. Their measure of intelligence does not include empathy and compassion. That they denigrated natural human attributes that are in both male and female were denigrated as exclusively female. Only women can be compassionate. If a man's compassionate, then he's a sissy, he's weak. Well, no, actually, that's what gives a man his strength, you see. And it is exactly true, you know, Jesus, this is why when you have a choice between health and protecting your rights, you protect your rights first, because your rights give you rights to healthcare, you see. And choice and dignity and respect. But if you give up your rights for security, you're going to have no security. And, you know, as far as I'm aware, and many other people who've had higher spiritual enlightenment, who are aware that, you know, reincarnation is a reality of life in this universe. Is that what we're looking forward to coming back to in the afterlife? Like Jesus said, what you do today determines how you will be living in your afterlife. So if we just ignore everything that's going on, we're just going to trust these people. Because don't forget, this is the same consciousness that just a few hundred years ago went into Africa, stole men, women and children, packed them like sardines into ships, sailed off to America. Next minute, they're all stood in a dusty market town, stood on soapboxes being sold as slaves. And still to this day, there's disgruntlement in America over the fact that slavery was abolished. Right? Still to this day, there's racism against black people and other people of colour because they were denigrated as inferior human beings. Just the same against women, inferior human beings. Well, don't you tell me that the same consciousness that is operating today, that has earned all its power and wealth directly from that period of history, colonisation, they're all there, the same families, ruling the world today. Right? Do not tell me that they are not capable of setting up factories, corporate factories, to produce corporate babies. Do not tell me that they are not capable of that. When we look at everything that they've done, when you look at the depleted uranium they're using in Iraq, when you look what they've done to people, what they're doing to people, what they've done to our planet, what they're doing to our planet, that they turn around and blame us for, when they're persecuting people who are campaigning to stop a dangerous oil pipeline running across their native lands. They're stamping them out. But if that oil pipe gets across and there's a huge leakage, who will get blamed for it? Not the corporation, humanity. Humanity. Oh, another reason why we have to destroy humanity. I tell you, we are being governed by half-wits. And that's why I make an appeal now to the police and military and every professional person of any authority and power in Britain to stand up for your rights and our rights. Stand with us, we the people, because it's us that created you. You came out from we the people. The government did not create you. It was we the people who you serve and who we serve. We all stand together. Because, you know, I'll tell you now, I was shocked and horrified when I discovered how low the average police officer's wage was in Britain. I really couldn't believe it for the amount, you know, such a very difficult and job of such responsibility. I mean, it's no wonder so many police are forced to turn to corruption. I mean, it is an invitation to give police wages that low of just over 25 grand a year. I could not believe it. You see, if we the people were running this country rather than a set of Tories, I tell you, police would be earning as much as GPs. And because we're all being robbed. And this is the future we're all facing. Okay? The dictatorship, the censorship. Of course, the people who delight in having power over people, men, women and children. People who enjoy watching suffering and misery. Sadistic type personalities, narcissistic, sadists. Can't wait. They relish all of this. This is, you know, they can't wait for martial law. Especially if they have managed to get themselves in the army. Like, you know, you have paedophiles getting into teaching, don't you? Paedophiles getting into the police, paedophiles in the army, paedophiles in the government. There's paedophiles everywhere. And also there's a lot of good people everywhere. And that's what I'm saying. It's time for that. This is a battle between good and evil. And our children's future depends on it. We're talking about the battle between sanity and insanity. And what is happening in this world right now is insane. Do not tell me that all these people in Denmark are all crazy tinfoil hat Trump supporting conspiracy theorists, avidly glued to QAnon. They're not. They're people from all walks of life who've come together to stand up for their human rights. And I've been promoting, you know, because of the COVID restrictions and the way that they're using these protests to abuse people with police and arrests and things, I've been promoting a doorstep protest, a doorstep celebration of our human rights in protest to everything this government's doing. And that we do that every night of the week, get on our doorstep, bang our pots and pans in every town and city, and let's see the BBC ignore us all. Let's see ITV and Channel 4 ignore us all. And we need to do it because time is closing in. And come end of December, it's going to be martial law because they are pulling us out on a no-deal Brexit. This week, Boris Johnson's supposed to be sorting out the deal. Instead, he's suddenly quarantining because he's been in touch with somebody with COVID-19, allegedly, even though he's already had it once. Okay. This is how crazy it has been going. That since when did any of us catch flu and then recover from it, a particular strain of flu, and recover from it, and then months later we've been in contact with somebody that's had that same flu, and now we're suddenly saying, oh, we're going to have to quarantine. There is no evidence that asymptomatic people can transmit that virus, no matter what virus it is. So, you know, we are in some very, very, very serious times. And we all need to be getting active, you know, face the fear, stand up for your rights, people. Because, you know, as I've said, and as Jesus said, you know, those who have, more shall be given, and those who have not, even that which they have shall be taken away. And that's basically what we're facing right now. The people of Denmark, they know they had rights, and they stood up for their rights, and now they shall receive more rights, okay? But if they had failed to stand up for their rights, even the rights that they have to protest would have been taken away. And that is exactly what we are facing with martial law here in Britain. If we do not stand up now for our rights, even our right to stand up for our right will be taken away. Now, you have been warned, people of Britain. You have been warned. It is up to you. The children's future is in your hands.